All right. All right. Welcome. Uh, this is the latest episode of this. Let me tell you what we're going to do today. I've got a little bit of changes. I'm going to click on this. Okay. So I realize this is very boring with my white background and black text, but it's intentional. It's because something I'm going to talk about in a little while. So here's what I got for today. I've got some updates for you. I'm going to analyze 3 different videos, and then I'm going to go through some question and answer. I've already had some sent to me, so I'm queued up, ready to go over those. But if anybody wants to ask any during this session, feel free to do that, and I'll jump on that at the end. So updates. These are some new things that are going on with ACE method coaching. And just to know, I'm constantly evolving, and the more I learn, try to make things better, more professional, look better, feel better, be better. I'm always learning things. And one of the things that became obvious to me since last week is that my thumbnails on my YouTube channel need to look better, to be a little more clickable, to be more bright and interesting, which led me down this path of learning some things. And basically, I've hired a person who's going to rebrand my whole YouTube channel and my website, new colors, new logo, everything. So I didn't want to put anything on here because it's going to change next week, and just to show you how boring it is right now. The other is this thing that I've been doing, this live session, trying to figure out, should I keep doing it? Yes, no. I am going to keep doing it. I'm just going to tweak it slightly. I think I'm going to call it Ace Hurdler Live. And it's going to, one new thing I'm going to do to it is to have a topic every day, or each lesson that I do here, or show, whatever you want to call it, on Sundays. I might end up doing more over time, but for now it's a Sunday afternoon thing. I'll have a topic that I'll be discussing, teaching people. I might also have somebody on with me to do an interview, something like that. And then I'll go into some question and answer and some reviews, things like that. I'm also working on a new video. In fact, I recorded it today. It's going to be called "Don't Make These Hurdle Coaching Mistakes," and it's going to be pretty good. And I'm also going to follow that up with another one that's an athlete's version. They're going to have some slightly different things, basically looking at the mistakes that hurdlers and hurdle coaches make from my perspective, and then how they might change them to be better. So look for that. That'll be coming up soon. And then this is another one that I'm really excited about telling you about. In looking at my YouTube channel and looking for content that people might want to see more of, things that I've tried that haven't worked, and things that are working, sometimes they surprise me. But I have this idea, and it's something I've tried a few years ago, but it didn't go super well. But at the time, I didn't have a big audience or followers on YouTube, and I think it would go better now if I do it differently. And I'm going to call it Personal Best. And what it is going to be tracking people that I coach. Because in case you don't know it, what I do on ACE Method Coaching is that a lot of people just send me questions and send me videos because they want help. That happens every day from all over the world. But I also have products that I sell, a Hurdling 101, which is very popular. It's a step-by-step video that teaches people how to learn how to hurdle, from somebody who knows nothing to being very proficient. Another thing that I sell quite a bit of are hurdle training programs. I have a coach version and an athlete version, and it is a very detailed 60-page document and you can use it on your phone or tablet, whatever you want, that gives you the details of every workout that you need through the entire season, from when you're starting out to when you're trying to gain speed and how you're getting ready for the races and get ready for the end of the season. And I sell quite a few of those. But I also do coaching, and that's through my subscriptions. I have a hurdler subscription, and that's where a hurdler would hire me for $29 a month to help them whatever they need. They have unlimited access to me. They send me a lot of videos. They ask me a lot of questions. I give them advice. I look at their videos, give them things they need to do to get better, send them new videos, things like that. It works really well, but I also have a coach's version. But all that to say that of the people that I coach, I have this idea that it would be interesting for people on my YouTube channel to be able to see them and see their progress. But also, if you could find of the people that I coach, somebody that you relate to, and I want to have a variety. So I want to have some females and some males. I want to have some beginners, some experienced people, middle schoolers, high school, college, you name it, and be able to track them. And you can see their progress and see the way I coach them, and it will help you learn from them. So I have invited a lot of my athletes to do it. Not all of them are keen on that. As you can imagine, not everybody wants that kind of attention, and it would also require some work on their end. So I have about 3 of them who are okay to do it. And basically what I'm doing is I am throwing this out to my audience to see if there's anyone out there who would like to be part of this experiment. So what that would mean is you are getting coaching from me. I won't charge you for it because you're really helping me out. And you will, say weekly, send me videos that you will record on your own of the progress that you're making from the coaching that I'm sending you. You'll send me an updated video. On my end, I will record myself analyzing it and giving you new suggestions, and it'll go back and forth like that over the course of, say, a season to show that individual or you getting better and what ends up happening as a result of the coaching. So it's something that would be like your own show, your own episodes. So if you're interested in that, email me at acemethodcoaching@gmail.com. I will take a look, see if you're a good fit for it, because I really kind of want to spread out the type of athlete that I'm working with, so I don't have a whole bunch of one type of athlete. Also has to do with quality of video and things like a lot of interesting things. So let me know if that's something that interests you. Okay, so I'm going to kick it off with some questions that I've received this week, and I'm going to go over them with you so you can hear them. But also, if you missed the beginning, if you have a question you'd like me to answer, even right now, you can go on in the chat and ask the question. And once I'm finished doing all this talking and video sharing or video analyzing, I'll try to answer any questions that are in there. So the first question that I got, actually all the questions that I got this week were related to distance hurdling. So 300 hurdles, 400 hurdles, sometimes 200 hurdles. And in some countries, I've learned 150-meter hurdles, because I coach, obviously, a lot of people in the United States, but some in South Africa and Australia. Talked to somebody in Denmark this week. And it's interesting that in the different countries, how they do it. And it's interesting that in a lot of countries, their youth start out racing in the grass. And they'll do that for a whole lot of their meets. And it's pretty interesting. I kind of like the way they do it. But anyway, what is the recommended distance for the 6-step drill? And so if you've seen my recent video about how to coach 300-meter hurdlers, you'll see that I mentioned a 6-step drill. So this person saw that on YouTube and asked me, what is the distance that I do when I put that up? I'm going to talk about that. Somebody purchased my training program specifically because they wanted it for 400. Their daughter is doing 400-meter hurdles, and they wanted to know, is the technique between 300 and 400 hurdling different than sprint hurdling? I'm going to talk about that. And then also a question has come up about how do I count the steps, and how does that work when you're doing 200, 300, 400 meter hurdles, and is that even a thing? So I'm going to talk about that. In fact, I'm going to jump into that right now. So I'm going to open this up. So first I'm going to talk about that 6-step drill. And so let me back up a little bit and give you some background on this. So when I coach my hurdlers, I take them through a progression throughout the season. And what I mean is, it's not just teaching them how to hurdle and then let them practice all the time, doing their own thing, trying to get better at hurdling. In order to be a really good hurdler, a fast hurdler, and to get better and better throughout the season and peak at the end of the season when you really need to, you should be going through a progression. And it also kind of depends on how advanced you are, how experienced you are. But in general, the average high schooler, whether in their first or second year, comes into the season not in super good shape because they might not have done any training in the off season. Now, if you did some training in the off season, you'll just want to take what I'm giving you right now and shift it back a little bit. But you don't go into the season and immediately start running the kind of times you did last season, or even able to reach the hurdles well like you did at the end of last season. It can be very frustrating for athletes. So what we do in the off season is we take the time to build up your endurance, work a lot on technique. And so we do some slower stuff and take some weeks to ramp up to it before we're really ready to do a whole lot of full speed work and get ready to race seriously. So that's overall. But something also to keep in mind is, specifically when we're talking with the distance hurdlers, the 300, 200, 300, 400 hurdlers, I take that same concept. So in the off season, I'm working a lot on just building up their endurance and working on technique, but not really teaching them to hit all their hurdles perfectly with all their steps. So what we do is just work on, like I said, technique, and then also teaching them how to go over hurdles with both legs. Now, you may or may not like that or want to do that, but I'll tell you, it's the best thing. You need to be able to know how to do it because you never know when things aren't going to go your way. And it's incredibly rare for a hurdler to hit all their hurdles perfectly. So just in case you get there and it would be better to shift to the other leg, you want to know how to do that. Plus, if you watch my other videos or you keep up with some of the elite hurdlers, even in the Olympics, not all of them, but the best of them, Sydney McLaughlin does this, where she switches legs, because if you want the best steps, sometimes you need to do that. So all that to be said, that I like this drill. Honestly, nobody taught it to me. I made it up. It's possible that other people do it, but I call it the 6-step drill. And it's one where I spread the hurdles out, and I have my hurdlers run over them so that they end up taking 6 steps between the hurdles. And that way they end up alternating. One time right, one time left, one time right, one time left, or vice versa. And so somebody asked, and I talk about this in one of my videos about how to coach the 300-meter hurdles, and I show this, but I don't really say how far do you space them. And the reason is because everybody's going to have their unique spacing, and that's, admittedly, it can be tricky if you have a lot of hurdlers and they're all doing this at the same time. You could be using up all your lanes because everybody has their own spacing. Hopefully you can kind of group them by something that makes sense. And then also, when a person is new to this drill, the hurdles are pretty close. They might be somewhere in the 30s, like 35 feet apart, 40 feet apart, something like this. But over time, when they get better at going over both legs, you want to keep spreading it out, because the goal is to have them run full speed, or what I call hard charge, over the whole thing, and they don't have to slow down and stutter when they get to a hurdle and they're going over it with their non-dominant leg. So I'm going to show you this drill first with the boy that you see in a lot of my videos. His name is Carson. He's a college freshman now, and here he is running over that 6 steps. Sorry, it's kind of choppy, but that he got really good at it. And at this point, he had them spaced out about 50 meters apart. So you can see he was running pretty fast. This is Leah. She's in a lot of my videos, and she's also now a college freshman, but this is back when she was, probably a junior in high school, and she was really good at this drill. And hers at this point were 48 feet apart. Now keep in mind, she didn't start at this. It's something that both of them built into over time. Like they could do this distance with their dominant leg. Well, no, that doesn't even make sense. Forget I even said that. But just know that. So anyway, watch here. Here she's going to go over with her favorite leg, which is her left leg. Left, and then 6 steps, and then right, 6 steps, and then left, 6 steps, and then right. And she would in most cases during a race, and same with Carson, go over with their favorite leg. But there's times when you need to do the other, or if something doesn't go well, maybe because of the wind or something, and you end up there, you can go over with both legs, and it saves you a lot. Okay. The other thing I was asked is about the technique. Is it different with the 400 hurdles versus the 100-meter hurdles? And the answer is mostly no, but some yes. Now let me show you that. And to do that, I've got a video of the best, Sydney McLaughlin, and let me just play a little bit, and I'm going to show her going over a hurdle, and you'll see that it is virtually the same thing. Has her heel tucked up to her butt for as long as she can, then she starts to unfurl it, goes over that hurdle. She doesn't totally extend the knee all the way, which I like. Her arms pretty much stay at 90 degrees. She does everything normal, like a 100-meter hurdler would. The difference, though, if you watch them, is this race is more about the running, and running efficiently, economically, fast, saving energy, and just not slowing down at the hurdle and losing energy. Not as much focus on the technique. So you'll see that they don't lean as much, and they go a little higher over the hurdle. I mean, she's probably 6 to 8 to 10 inches over that hurdle, and I've noticed at the end of the race, all the hurdlers are even higher over that hurdle. It's not because they have more energy, it's because they're more tired, and subconsciously they just think they're going to hit that hurdle, so they end up jumping higher than they need to. But so it's overall the same, but they don't lean as much, they don't go as low, and they just focus on just moving forward and not slowing down. Okay, another thing that I want to talk about is the steps. Okay, so yes, I count hurdler steps, and yes, you can count your hurdler steps or count your own steps, but it kind of depends on who you are. If you're a brand new hurdler to the distance hurdles, 200, 300, 400 hurdles, and you're younger, like say middle school, freshman, you might not be counting them at all. You just run and go. But once you start getting some consistency, you're going to want to start choreographing, or like deciding what are the optimal number of steps to take, so that you can learn what it feels like to be at that right pace and that right stride pattern so that you hit the hurdles in that step. So that being said, the average high school boy who is good is taking 15 steps between most of his hurdles. Okay? The average high school girl who's good is taking 17 steps between the hurdles. Okay? Now, because it's odd steps, that means they go over every hurdle with their favorite leg. Now, obviously, from the start to the first hurdle, it's more like 22 steps and 24 steps. But between all the other ones, it's either 15 steps for boys and 17 steps for girls. But then as they fatigue, naturally their stride shortens, so they end up shifting and adding 1 or 2 more steps. And if they're in not very good shape, they end up adding 3 or 4 steps by the last hurdle or 2. So that's a lot in there. But let me give you an idea of how it works. When you come down, your trail leg is the one that you count as step 1. So I'm going to show you that at this point in the race, Sydney takes 14 steps. So watch this. I'll tell you what. Let me back up and play this slower. You can see what I'm talking about. Come on. Okay, so I'm going to slow it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So she goes over with 14 steps. And she's going to do that all the way around the track until she gets around the corner. And then she ends up taking 15. What's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so that's what the good high school boys do. The good high school girls take 2 more steps than what you just saw here. Very few of them take less than that. If you're familiar with Anna Hall, who is the best heptathlete in the world, I had the luxury of watching her grow up in the state of Colorado at meets on Saturdays and on track meets, and she could do 14 steps in high school, but she was tall and fast and long-legged. She could pull that off, or certainly 15 steps. I couldn't. I doubt, honestly, I want to retract that. I don't think it was 14 steps, but it was 15 steps, what the boys were doing, not what all the girls were doing. So keep that in mind. So let me say something. And this is, even though I just showed you how to count steps between the hurdles, at a track meet, it's hard to do that. It's easy to do it when you can go in slow motion, but at a track meet, and then when they're far away from you, it's hard to do that. So at track meets, I count them while they're racing, but I'm only counting their trail leg. So I count every other step. So it would look like this in full speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I would know, okay, 8. So if it were a boy, I would say, okay, he did it right. So then 8 steps, 8 steps, 8 steps, and I can see when he goes to 8.5 or 9 steps. So that's the way to do it when they're going full speed. That nobody taught me that. First time I mentioned that to a hurdle coach who knew a lot, he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "That's just the way I do it." So anyway, something to keep in mind. So that's all the stuff I wanted to show people today, to go over the questions that I received, and I thought I would turn that into a little lesson about distance hurdling. Okay, so now let me switch some things up real quick, because I'm done with that, done showing you stuff, and now I'm going to see what questions you guys have. And we've been at this for a little while. Okay, so I've got a question that says, hello, this Friday I ran a 400 hurdle and I didn't finish. Is that bad? And the only reason is because I was tired, and that's bad because it was at a meet. Okay. Well, that's really tough to answer that question. Not being there, I can tell you though that a 400-meter hurdle race might be the hardest race that there is. Because it's hard to run a 400 period. It's hard to do it as fast as you can. And then having to go over hurdles takes even more energy. And then when most hurdlers, it doesn't look like what the video I just showed you. That it looked like she spends no energy going over the hurdle. Most hurdlers, they get up to it, they have to slow down, then they jump, and then they land, and they have to build up their speed again. And you do that 10 times around a track. It's absolutely exhausting. So while you stopped, and maybe some other ones did, I can guarantee you that every 400-meter hurdler in the world ever probably wished that they could have stopped sometime. Now, I'm not recommending that you stop. It probably would have been better had you just slowed down and just done your best. But hopefully you'll have another chance and you can redeem yourself and try to do a little bit better. I would recommend watching some of the videos that I have about the 300 and 400 meter hurdles and learn some of the step strategies. And then also the video that I put out recently about how to coach 300 meter hurdlers. Even though that video is designed for coaches, it would definitely be helpful for athletes too. Okay. Let's see here. And then also keep in mind, it really has to do with what kind of conditioning or how good a shape you're in. So I don't know what your training is like. So if you need help with that, let me know. And I'll most likely refer you to my training program because it gives you all the workouts that you need through the entire season, because they're all different. They need to change as you get more in shape and as the season moves on. So I spell them out. Like I said, it's 12 weeks of workouts, 3 workouts a week. So like 60 pages of workouts, and both for sprint hurdles and distance hurdles. So you might want to check that out. Okay. Let's see here. So B Lucy 82. I ran the 300 meter hurdle this weekend and I seemed to fly over the hurdle on the last 100 meters and stutter stepped to the first hurdle. And then you also asked, I seem to always get tired at the end. What can I do to keep up stamina? Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question before I start talking and try to go in and answer my question. Are you from the United States? And I ask that because if you're already running 300 meter hurdles, that means you're at the beginning of your season. And it could be that you're from another country and you're later in your season, but I need to know because that'll answer my question. Okay, but let me just tell you this. Your thing where you said the steps worked out fine at the end of the race, but you stuttered a lot at the beginning. Here's why. It's very common because the difference between practicing, let's say you get your steps down really good at practice, but then you go to try to do them at a meet, and the first 1, 2, or 3 hurdles, it's all wrong. That's very common because at a meet, you're fresh, you're excited, your adrenaline is flowing because of this, and you're able to run faster. And when you run faster, you naturally take longer steps, not even thinking about it. It's subconscious. And by doing, even if it's just a few inches difference in your steps, by the time you get up to a hurdle, let's say you've done 24 steps from the start of the blocks to the first hurdle and you added an inch every time, that's 24 inches of closeness that you are to the hurdle, and it doesn't work anymore, so you have to stutter. Same thing happens with the second hurdle, sometimes the third hurdle, but by the time you get to the fourth hurdle, it all starts to level out. That's because you start to get fatigued. So what you need to do is, there's one of two things. You need to anticipate this and try to take 1 or 2 less steps at the meet from what you practice with. If it's going to be 1 step difference, then that means at the starting blocks you just switch your legs and it'll end up working fine. That's a very common thing that I would do with my hurdlers. So keep that in mind. That's the main thing. Or if you don't like to do that, just know that, okay, I'm going to have more energy, more adrenaline at the meet. So for the first few hurdles, I have to make sure that I contain my energy so that I don't run too fast or too long of a stride and end up too close to the hurdle. Those are the 2 things that you need to think about. Okay. Yes. So B Lucy 82. So basically she's saying she just started her season. So that makes sense that she has energy at the beginning, but really, really tired at the end of the race. Again, as I said earlier, it's the hardest race that you can run. So you're going to run out of gas. Everybody runs out of gas in the last 100 meters, certainly at the beginning of the season. So what I recommend is anticipate that and just know that you're going to get tired, and just really focus on turning over your legs quick, keeping your form really good, and doing the best that you can. But know that as the weeks go by, assuming you're training properly, you're going to get more and more in shape or more and more fit. And then you'll be able to hold a good pace farther. Okay? So one thing I recommend is, let's say, for example, you're the average high school girl, and you're either taking 17 or 19 steps between your hurdles at the beginning, the first half of the race, and then you get tired after that, and then you end up taking 19 or 21 steps between the hurdles. Let's say that you can do it now to the third hurdle, but not to the fourth hurdle. Each week, try to challenge yourself to hold that pace, hold that stride pattern 1 more step. So as the season goes on, you're getting faster because you're holding that good speed for more and more hurdles before you shift down to your tired, shorter turnover and to the finish line. So there's some stuff for you guys. Jaden Jean asks, what is a good time for a sophomore in the 110 meter hurdles in high school? That is really tough, because a good time for a sophomore, let's say a good goal for a sophomore, it depends on how good we're talking about, but let's say that a high school senior is doing really good if they can run in the 110 meter hurdles. A boy can run under 16 seconds. Obviously, there are some that can run under 15 seconds, like the boy in a lot of my videos that you'll see in the video that I said he went from the worst to the best. His goal his senior year was to run 13.7. He didn't make it. Mostly weather conditions got in his way, and if I remember correctly, his fastest time was 14 flat, but that's exceptional. Okay, and then so breaking 15 puts you in a really, really good category. So getting in the 15s is really good. So if you want to back off a year, let's say sophomore year, if you want to get into the 16s, that would be good. I'm sorry, junior year, and then sophomore year, if you could, under 17, or under 18, something like that, just to do that. And to answer your question, and I wish I was more prepared. That's the thing about taking questions on the fly like this. You might want to go into, say, milesplit.com and I forgot the name of the other one, where you can see rankings of athletes, and you can actually you can filter. In mile split, I know that you can filter athletes by graduation date. So you could look at all the sophomores in your state, and you could sort them by sophomores and see what the fastest sophomores are running. That'll give you a better idea than what I'm talking about. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay. And then, okay. Wow, I'm getting a lot of good questions today. And the only reason, it seems like they're coming in the, okay. Actually go in reverse order from what I expected. New to me. Okay, so, thank you so much. Chloe asked, what can I do to get my lead leg straight over the hurdle? That's what I mostly have problem with. I'm running the 100-meter hurdles and 300 hurdles this year for the 8th grade. Okay, so Chloe, that's an interesting question because I don't actually teach my hurdlers to fully straighten their lead leg, okay? I don't want them bent. I want them almost straight, like 95% bent, if that makes sense. And then as they start to go over that hurdle, that way they can bring their lead leg down really well, okay? So let's say that that's what you're looking for. How do you get your lead leg mostly straight over a hurdle? Okay, well, you want to do lead leg drills, okay? So I have a video on YouTube. It's actually my most watched video that I've had out there for like 3 or 4 years. It has Leah on it, who I just showed a little while ago, but it's when she was a freshman in high school. And it's, so go to my YouTube channel and find it. It says Youth Hurdles Lead Leg. And it shows all the progression that I take a new hurdler to work on their lead leg. So you start off doing a wall drill, then you do a walking drill, then you do skipping drills, then jogging drills, then running drills, all working on your lead leg. All this, by the way, is really detailed in my Hurdling 101, something you might want to look at. You can check out that on my website, okay? Leland, thank you. Mile Split and Max Preps. That's the one that couldn't remember the name of it. Those are the two places where a person can go and filter down to your state, your conference, your region, whatever, and then also filter by your age or your graduation level. And you can see how you do against people your age. And so to find out what's a good time for a freshman or what's a good time for a sophomore, that's a really good way to do it. Keep in mind though, you might want to filter out like some of the best ones, because I mean to say, let's say for example you find a sophomore who's already running a 15-1 or a 14-8 or something like that. It could happen, but that is typically an athlete that has been doing this for years, and they probably do it year round. They're on a club team getting really, really good coaching for years, and you might look at them as the average high schooler who does this seasonally and say, oh, I'm slow. No, it doesn't mean you're slow. It just means that that person is far ahead of you and has some advantages that you haven't had yet. Doesn't mean you can't catch them by your junior year or senior year. Trust me, I've seen it many, many times. Okay. So, wow, this is going super well. As far as the most people watching, the most people answering questions, but I have exhausted everything I was going to talk about. What I'll do, I'll just take this opportunity to go show you something that I do sometimes, and then while I'm doing that, if you want to throw in a question here when I'm back in a few minutes, I will answer it. So let me go back to this. I'll go back to here. I'm going to go to my website, which, in case you didn't miss in case you missed the beginning, this is probably going to be the last week that my website looks like this, because I've hired somebody to rebrand my channel and my website. They're creating a new logo that's got some more color, got some more pop to it. So I'm going to end up going through as soon as I can and updating everything with that new look and things like that. So that's not a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me. Okay, so I always try to post when my next live session is going to be. So if you want to check out future ones, it'll be there. These are 2 things that I offer for free. This is called 6 Techniques to Level Up Your Hurdling. So basically what I did is just for my many years of coaching athletes of all levels, plus looking at a lot of video, and really, yeah, so many of the videos that people send me, I started realizing the common mistakes and the common things that the better athletes are doing over the less good ones. And I narrowed it down to 6. And I show them on here and show you this is what you need to be doing to get better. And this is how people send me videos. If they want me to check out their video, they click on here and it takes them to an email, and they email them to me. These are the 3 things that people seem most interested in. New hurdlers, parents of new hurdlers, even coaches who work with new hurdlers like this, because it's very detailed, step by step, shows you everything that you need to do to learn how to hurdle. I don't know why that's taking so long. Hope that's not a good sign that my website's moving slowly at the moment. I don't like that at all. But anyway, that's a little bit disconcerting. Anyway, so, it's like this, and it shows you how to do it, what all the drills need to be. And I also have a PDF that you can go along with it that tells you everything that you need to do. Okay. Hurdle training plan, a coach version, an athlete version, as I've mentioned a few times in this, so I won't belabor it. It's a detailed pages of all the workouts you need throughout the season to progress you from the beginning of the season, middle season, late season. And if you're interested in working with me, I've got a subscription for hurdlers and also for coaches and parents. By the way, somebody emailed me the other day and says, oh, it's probably strange for a parent to email you. And I emailed them back and said, actually, no, that's who mostly emails me, or parents of young hurdlers. So just know that that's normal. Okay, so these are the kind of things that you can get on my website if you're interested in something like that. Let me go back to here and go back to YouTube and see what is there. Okay, so no more questions. So I am going to take that as a sign that I'm going to, oh, I just got a question. Coach, any tips for practicing in small spaces indoors during Colorado's snowy weather? I'm guessing working on muscle memory. I do have some tips because having done it before. In case you don't know, I now live in Indiana, but I've only been here about 9 months. At the moment, I don't coach any teams or in person. I've shifted into all online stuff, like what I just told you about. But I do know it's common here. I do know it's very common because I get videos from people, and I know when I was in Colorado, obviously you got snow on the ground in the winter. So in the ideal situation, you're able to use your school hallways. That is a pretty common thing. The best case scenario is where your school is purchasing these roll-out thin rubber surfaces, and then they roll those out so you can run on that. That's not common, but ideally they would do that, and athletes would be practicing in the halls after school. Sometimes they do it without the rubber. I remember when I was coaching in Colorado, I didn't have that budget, and we were running on concrete in the hallways and laminate tile in the hallways. Usually worked out pretty well. So that'd be my recommendation there. There were times where I didn't have access to a hallway, and we would find a basketball court somewhere. I remember going either to like a YMCA or a franchise fitness center that had a gym, and I would bring some pop-up hurdles, and we could, at least where we were, I could put out 1, 2, or 3. I can certainly do all the drills. And if we were working on sprint hurdles, I would, if I remember correctly, we could fit 3 hurdles there. And then I would put like a mat or something in case so they wouldn't crash into the wall. But when it came to working on the distance hurdles, like the 300, obviously you can't. So what we would do is I would put, in the basketball court, I would put 1 hurdle facing one direction, and they would run, I don't remember how many steps, taking a dozen steps before they'd go over that hurdle, and they would run to the other wall, tap the wall, and turn around and run back, where I would have another hurdle turn the other direction, and that way they could jump over that hurdle. So obviously the spacing isn't right, but if you have been paying attention to me, I don't care about spacing when we're working early season or off season, because I'm more interested in you learning how to go over with both legs, and the building up the endurance is more important. So for example, I would say, okay, go up and back, and then we would take a breather and just repeat that. And then as they got more fit, as the weeks go on, I would say, okay, now 3 lengths. You'd go up, back, up, and then take a breather, and then we would do that. And ultimately, they built up their endurance, so they were going up, back on the basketball court. So they would go over 8 hurdles, and but it took them weeks to build up to that. And if you've gotten my stuff, you'll see that I'm really into incrementally building up. That's the way the human body responds well without getting hurt. So that's the way I handled that. So, but if you don't have that, you're a little bit out of luck. You have to just do a lot of running where you can, running outdoors. Sometimes people are literally shoveling 1 lane on the track. I see that all the time. So that's something you can do just to give you somewhere to work. But anywhere you can squeeze to do, wall drills, all your other drills. And then you could just do all your drills and then do all your running somewhere else. That way you're in shape. And that's certainly a lot better than nothing. Okay? Hope that helped. I really enjoy this. I've said it before, one of the reasons years ago that I decided to even do this is because, in life where you do something a lot and you learn a lot, it's just such a shame to have it go to waste when you die or you stop coaching. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to figure out a way to download all this stuff that I've learned so other people can help. So that's what I'm doing. So, okay. So again, there are no questions. So I'm going to wrap this up. This was, I don't know how many minutes it took, but anyway, thanks a lot. 48 minutes and 51 seconds. So hope you liked it. If you have any questions, go to acemethodcoaching.com and you'll see how to reach me there, or you can just go to acemethodcoaching@gmail.com and email me directly there, either one. And then on my YouTube channel, between my website and my YouTube channel, tons of information on there. So anyway, thanks. Have a good week and good hurdling.